was Litecoin, wasn't it?
Was what? Litecoin?
Yeah, you used to love Litecoin, didn't you?
I still do, but it's like, fuck, man. It's been so. I pretty much liquid everything at, I think it was about 110 bucks last time it popped up. And now I'm just sitting in Bitcoin and that's it because it's not worth playing with anything else until something turns, you know. I don't think we're going to see altcoin season until we get to that point where Bitcoin breaks that whatever 20,000, 29,000, something like that, and then once Bitcoin starts running down, there might be an alt season. But I just don't know. I just don't feel like these altcoins. I feel like my mind state now is where everybody else is at, is where it's buy Bitcoin, hold Bitcoin, because now that we're going into these times of recession and all this, you got all this uncertainty. And I don't think people are going to get too stupid with their money anymore. You know, if we go into a recession, or if the world goes into a global recession, I just don't see people putting money into risky assets. Like, oh yeah, hey, let's go buy some fucking whatever
Shitcoin.
coin of the month. Well, you know, I mean, Bitcoin kind of has that bearing now. I can see people putting their money into Bitcoin, but I just can't see putting money into like Ethereum Classic or Litecoin or Ethereum because it's just not there. You know, I mean, you look at all these charts and everything's just
I
drowning.
suppose it's what they referred to as you hear a lot of people saying, "Oh, the market," which is meaning like obviously us, is
Yeah.
maturing. You know, so like you see all these people investing in these fucking shit coins, like, and some of them, I swear to God, I'm sure if I search, some of them have probably named themselves shitcoin, but people will still invest
Yeah.
in it. I don't get it.
I don't get it because it's like now that I'm just like, because this year I'm like, okay, well, we're going into a global recession. I believe that 100%. I believe that with all the macro to the micro and everything that's going on, there's no fucking way I'm trading any of this shit because I like money and I'm trying to make profit, not lose profit. There's no way that investors out there can be this damn dumb and just be like, oh yeah, let's go throw money into all this horse shit. You know, so it's like I think my money tactics now are completely different as compared to 2017, 2018, where I was like, hey, let's just throw it in there because I know my chances are so well. And now I have to move with caution this year. So this year I've been playing more like gold, silver. I've been watching all these
Yeah, the one
silver
I'm
mining
interested in the
stocks.
most at the moment is silver, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I've been honestly good. I've been watching like the Dow or the Nasdaq or whatever. You can go look up. I've been watching a lot of like AXU is a gold mining stock. I've been watching all the silver mining stocks, the gold mining stocks,
Hmm.
Tesla, Target. You know, I'm waiting for all these companies that I think are going to do well. I've been watching more stocks this year as compared to cryptocurrencies. You know, because I think like Tesla is going to become a hell of a buy. I think Target's going to become a hell of a buy. Bank of America. Um, we got Delta Airlines, things like this. You know, I'm trying to buy long-term investments. Is basically what I'm looking at now.
Yeah,
Using
that's how I'm
different.
thinking. There's more, scarce assets, um,
Yeah.
and hedges against a sort of bank and economic downturn. So things that are
Oh
going to
yeah.
combat that.
I'm in the strong belief. For me, I have to look at things differently
Because you got to
because
think you're going to win either way, aren't you? Because if the economy booms, typically either you get offered more work or your assets just go up in value anyway. And if there's an economic downturn but you're hedging against that, then
yeah,
you're winning when it goes down as well.
I'll be honest with you. Here's what I think is going to happen. I think that you're in a better position than I am because America's been living on debt for so long that we're fucked. You know what I mean? I think our economy is fucked completely because in America, with all this unpegging of the dollar, this Chinese trade war, all this, I don't think the dollar is going to last much longer. Like I just don't see the dollar being the dominant player anymore. So I'm like, hey, okay, what do I do? Because everybody's so indebted in we haven't learned how to make a savings, and everybody lives off of credit. So I mean, literally everybody lives off of credit cards, and they live off of debt, and it's like that just can't be sustained. So my thought is like America's going to make a huge downturn, and if we go into a recession, our recession is going to be horrible. You know what I mean? I think that our recession is going to be the worst recession we've ever seen. It ain't going to be a 2008. I don't think it'll be like the dot-com bubble. I think it's going to be like a 1930s where it's going to drag out and cause us to be in debt for a while. You know, so I'm trying to clean up everything on my side, and I'm trying to invest into prolonged assets that I know are going to perform right during a recession is where I'm at. But I think that you're in a better position because your guys' housing market's fucked up, but it's not as bad as ours. And I know that I'm going to take a hit on my home, so I'm worried about my house value. So I can't sell my house right now because the prices have come so far down. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to have to hold on to this home. But I'm looking to purchase more properties if we do go in. So I'm trying to stay liquid with cash, so that way the long term I can rent this home, buy another home.
Yeah.
But another thing is like I have to prepare for longevity. I think Europe will be okay because in the end, if you guys Brexit and you cause, let's just say in Britain there, if you guys go into a recession because of Brexit, I don't think it's going to be that bad. You know, I think you guys will recover quicker than America will recover. And I think that you guys have been living on the poorer side. I don't mean that in an offensive way to you. I think that you guys have a lot more savings, and you guys been equipped to save more because you guys haven't had the access to.
I think one of the I was looking at, I was watching something the other day, and they were saying about how Britain pretty much manipulates the price of gold because they have such a large holding of it. Obviously, because of all the yeah, we've gone round and taken stolen everyone's gold and stuff. But I think I think when Brexit happens, there's a lot of countries that we sort of help prop up. We actually we give a massive amount of money to Europe and don't get that much back, you know, so there's a deficit. And there's a lot of countries in the European Union. There's only actually about 4 big players. You got France, Germany, and then you got us, and then I don't know who the next biggest players are, but all the other countries, or most of them, are struggling. And so they're all looking to Germany now. They're all looking to Germany to say, look, help us out, bail us out, or whatever. And there'll come a time where they're all the other countries are going to bring Germany down with them. And hopefully, obviously, we'll avoid that if we do Brexit.
Like Germany's economy is completely fucked right now. You know, they're on a recession. Their own central banks are doom and gloom. You got Deutsche Bank going to shit. You know, so it's like there's not going to be a bailout for the European Union this time around, I don't think. I mean, what country is going to be able to bail everybody out? No, I mean, when America went under, we had China. That's not going to be the case this time around. You know, and I don't see Russia bailing anybody out. So who's going to buy up all this debt and help prop these markets? No one. So I think when the downturn comes, it's going to be horrible. You know, so I think all that we can do as people is just get ready to make investments and try to invest wisely. I mean, fuck, today our market, the Dow Jones collapsed almost 700 points again. So it's like things
What,
are already
today?
starting. Yeah. Today closed out at like 620 points down. So
That happened the other day, didn't it?
happened the other day too. Yeah. I mean, we dropped 1,000 points. We hit a high at 27,200, I think is what it was, and then we immediately just took a shit, you know. And now we're down about 2,000 points from that all-time high. So it's been crazy, and I think it's just gonna get a lot worse.
Says here, Dow Jones collapsed, down plummeted more than 700 points. Global markets in panic mode.
And then Glenn, start reading about what Carney, your guys' has his Bank of England. Well, he's telling everybody over there in the European Union, he's saying, let's make a cryptocurrency to circumvent the United States dollar. You know what I'm saying? So
Really?
we get off of the dollar completely in the European Union. I was like, and this is coming from the main guy over there at the Bank of England. So I think that the dollar's on the verge of collapse. You know, I think it's not going to be the peg anymore. And our Federal Reserve knows it.
Oh my god, this is awesome. Bank of England governor suggests a Libra-like currency should become the world's reserve currency.
That's what I'm telling you. And they want to drop the dollar. Well, it's going on everywhere. You know, European.
There's already a Libra-like currency. That's Bitcoin.
Well, what's crazy is that I never knew this, but like the European Union started. They made a new channel, a SWIFT channel, to circumvent SWIFT, so that way they could buy oil from Iran to import it into Europe. You know, and I never knew that. And so there's already been a lot of people, a lot of countries cutting the United States off and circumventing the whole SWIFT payment system. And so you see it going on all over the place. And then you start looking into like shipping. You know, I don't know if you ever followed shipping, but you see how people are shipping shit from like Venezuela to Russia and then from Russia to China, you know, so they're circumventing the U.S. completely. So instead of going from Venezuela to the U.S. to China, they're circumventing all this shit in the shipping industry also. So it's like this whole shit where we're putting these sanctions on these countries, they're all circumventing us. Now that shit never happened until this year, until last year and this year. So you're seeing it more predominantly becoming a thing, and it's looking like China's going to beat us out as far as the global reserve.
I don't know. I was watching something about how China's debt is worse than America, and they're
It doesn't matter. They're playing a long-term goal. They're sitting on $300 trillion or some shit that they have. They're making their companies pay their debt right now because since they're a communist country, they're making all these big, huge corporations over there sell off properties here in America to pay their debt that they have coming in right now.
well, I know that China apparently for years they've been offering loans out to countries, and then when the countries can't pay them back, they just say, okay, declare your territory as part of the China,
Yep.
union. So they're actually just accumulating land. So
China can play a long game. We can't. You see, China's a dynasty, and we're all about the moment. So it's like Chinese are going to play us out, and they're showing it. China has completely dominated us and has raped us completely because it goes to show today. You see that Xi Jinping came on there and he's just like, hey, look, okay, well, we're going to impose more tariffs. He'll collapse America and push America into a recession, and we can't do anything about it. I mean, how are we going to repent against him for him putting these tariffs on? We're going to put more tariffs on him. Okay, well, because the yuan's going to go down, we'll depreciate the yuan, but at the same time, China's going to force us into a recession. We're not going to recover from it, you know. And now that the global trade routes are all being cut off and they're unpegging all the oil and all everything else and cutting off the dollar, we can't play this game. I mean, we only
yeah,
have so much tools of leverage against the Chinese. They still hold our government bonds, our T-bonds and all that. So once they start cashing those out, they'll start crashing our dollar. And then we're going to go into hyperinflation over here to where we can't afford to keep playing this game. So they're going to beat us at our own game easily. You know, and we got this dumb asshole Trump who's talks all this shit like, oh, we got such a great economy. Our economy is fucked right now completely. You know, and all you got to do is just go look at it. Like our auto industry's ruined. Almost every industry over here is ruined right now, and we're not doing so well. And it seems like they're trying to pull this wool over their eyes as if our economy is something great, and it's not. I mean, China is definitely winning this game against us. You know, and for some reason, American media is just keeping everybody blindsided. So
yeah, I
I
wouldn't
think it's
trust out half the things they come out with anyway.
I don't trust anything they say. I just look at the facts, and you can just look at the industries. Like everything that's going on within industry, you can just see it. You look at any chart, you look at anything, and you can see how everything's just downturned right now. We have the most prop stock market. I don't even understand how our stocks are where they're at. Like a company like Uber loses billions of dollars, but yet it's still evaluated as on a market cap of a couple $1 billion company. It's like, how is a company that doesn't make money even evaluated? And you look at like the S&P 500 and all the corporations, and all of our corporations are just propped up off of bullshit paper shares, and it's crazy because none of these companies in America should be valued what they're valued at, and I don't understand how we're doing this, and I don't see why American people are so naive. Our corporate debt is through the roof.
I know. I mean, the thing is with companies like Uber and I don't know, like, but they have no real assets, do they? They're not. All they're offering is as an app.
That's it.
A free app, and they're taking obviously a cut of all the taxis. But if all the taxis said, "Do you know what? We're all gonna not use Uber," Uber would be done overnight.
I think Uber's completely fucked as soon as Tesla autonomous driving goes out there and we have these autonomous taxis. There is no fucking way Uber's going to be able to compete with that.
You're thinking well into the future. You're Michael J. Fox.
Realistically, that's only 2 to 3 years away.
Yeah, but then you need adoption. That's going to take a couple of years, isn't it? So it'll start off in one area first, and then it'll have to spread out.
Tesla's already up to, they're saying by 2021, 1 million autonomous cars on the road to start running their autonomous taxis. I was like, shit, dude, as soon as that hit, and everybody was saying Tesla was never going to be anything, and look at them now. They're almost up to, 400,000 cars a year. Their autonomous driving has been collecting more autonomous data than anybody else out there. There's nobody in the field that can even compete with them, and it's like, I don't know. I think Tesla's going to end up collapsing Uber, Lyft, all this shit, because why wouldn't people want to buy a car that could pay you money? You know what I mean? Like, finally, a vehicle is going to not be a depreciating asset. It's actually going to be an appreciating asset to where you can make money with your vehicle, literally. So I think that's very interesting. I think we're about to see a huge turn in things with all this disruptive technology. And that was like the other thing that I was talking about for a long time was goddamn quantum computing. On a while there last year, I was telling everybody, oh yeah, man, it's here. And now look, quantum computing is less than 2 years out. It might be 2 to 3 years before we actually have a feasible quantum computer that's going to be out there in this world, usable. And it's like, shit, once that comes about, how much is that going to disrupt everything else? And I think we're less than 5 years from a quantum internet and less than 10 years from everything becoming quantum chips. So I think over the course of the next 5 to 10 years is going to be very interesting with everything that's going on. I think we're about to see like major turns in this world. And I was watching a very interesting thing, and I'll link the video in here. I was talking with this guy Dan Tapatio about the internet, how the internet might have actually just been built for Bitcoin. No bullshit. You laugh, but you watch this video, Glenn, and then tell me if it doesn't make sense. Because you're going to look at it and you're going to go, fuck, you know what? This guy is right. I mean, how the fuck is it that the internet, the only thing that me and you can do on the internet is transmit data? That's it. There's no significant purpose for the internet. If you really think about it, what the fuck do we do on the internet except watch video? That's it. There's no significant role that the internet plays. There's no nothing. There's absolutely nothing. And then you look at Bitcoin, and if you look at it like an invention, and you look at the implications of Bitcoin, it almost makes sense that the infrastructure of the internet was put in place just for Bitcoin. Like, I'm not bullshitting. You watch this interview and then tell me what you think, because I mean, this guy explains it and it's just like, you know what?
And
It
what's
kind of
this on?
does
Is this on
make
YouTube?
sense. Yeah, I watch this show. It's called Real Vision. I watch everything on here and what these people have to say, because you know who Raoul Paul is? He's this guy Raoul Paul is a huge macro investor. So
Right.
he
I've
made,
heard the name.
well, yeah, he was the dude who made like millions of dollars back when he was 32 years old playing the market way back when in 2008, 2002 and all that. So he was like some really hot shit back in the days. Now he's a little bit older, but like he started this company called Real Vision, and it's just fucking interesting. Everything that's being talked about on there it's just neat, man. He gets all these guys on there that you couldn't ever have access to, and they're all giving thoughts on shit. And it's just very interesting, you know, what these people with money and what these people envision is pretty neat, you know. And you can see where Bitcoin's becoming a thing, you know. So it's kind of interesting. But that video that I posted right there, watch that, man. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. With this guy, it's not his theory. It's other theories that are being floated around on the internet. But it's interesting to think that the internet could have been built, or this landscape could have been built for Bitcoin. You know, you think about it, like everybody commonly jokes about the class of fiats, but if fiat actually collapsed, the internet would have to be the main infrastructure to a global uh, global currency. You see what I'm saying? Like a global digital currency. So you would have to have that infrastructure in order to have a global currency. You couldn't have a global currency without the internet. Does that make sense?
That's true.
Because you just couldn't do it. I mean, you couldn't have the
Yeah, people wouldn't have access to it. Yeah.
So it's almost like the internet was built for this global currency. Whether it be Bitcoin, whether it be something else, whatever, it's still going to take that infrastructure to run this global currency, to actually make a global currency for everybody to use, for everybody to be on. You're just going to have this underlying structure being the internet, you know? So that's kind of interesting to think about it in that perspective, as if the internet, and I mean, you think about it like, oh yeah, but Amazon and all this shit, just a plus to this. You know, e-commerce was just a plus to this global currency. You know, so it's a kind of an interesting theory to think about, I guess. So
Damn. Some
jump into the
interesting
Matrix.
Interesting thoughts there, PJ. Interesting
Oh yeah,
thoughts. You love
I
it.
can go on for days about all this shit, man.
Well, you almost have.
Hey, pretty much, right?
Hey.
I just think we all need to open our minds up more. I think we all need to be aware. It's good to have conversation like this, because the more people you get more into this, and the more people that can talk about this, the better your ideas can become. You know, it's like you were stating at the beginning of when you wanted to talk to somebody about Nexo. There's so much shit. You know, I wish we had more people to join a group conversation so we all could talk about more and pick everybody's minds.
This Nexo, do you not worry though that eventually they're gonna just run off with the cryptocurrency or money or anything?
No, not at all. They're backed by BitGo, and I don't know if you've done your research on BitGo, but they seem to be the industry leader uh, behind everything. Now, if they lose BitGo, then I'm taking my money off that platform immediately.
So your strategy with Nexo, just so I can get my head around it.
Is get what now?
Oh no, go on. Go and sort your kids out first.
Oh, they're fine. She's just yapping. She just woke up. Now she's fussing. She'll be all right. Well, what were you saying now, Glenn?
So we're live now on YouTube, so just don't disclose anything if you don't want to. But with Nexo,
put us on? Why would you put us on YouTube?
YouTube?
Hold on, let me go hush my kids up now. How long have we been on YouTube for?
I don't know. 10 minutes?
Oh Jesus! So everybody's hearing me babble about everything, huh?
Yeah, that's all right. It's a podcast episode. Oh no,
You hear
I
my
think
kids screaming too, huh? Right in the
no,
background.
no, 3 minutes. I think so. Not long.
So,
Um,
I'm on YouTube, so just don't disclose anything if you don't want it. But okay. With next
yeah, your thoughts on Nexo,
YouTube,
right? This is what I was thinking, PJ, is that say if I was to buy one whole Bitcoin, yeah, but I couldn't necessarily afford to own one Bitcoin at the moment.
hold on. Let me mute while I'm.
So if I was to buy one whole Bitcoin and if I couldn't afford it, yeah, so say one Bitcoin was 10k, but I only have like I could get my hands on 10k, but I would need to have access to say 5 grand of that. I could buy one whole Bitcoin, borrow the money again using Nexo, so that I get 5 grand back, and then I can use that 5 grand on whatever it was I was going to use. But then I've always got one whole Bitcoin sort of locked down at the price of 10k. So if the price of Bitcoin all of a sudden goes up to like 20, 30k, I'm still in for that ride. But I've only actually invested 5,000 dollars into it, if you see what I mean. But then obviously I need to take into account that obviously they charge 8% per annum for the interest rate. So I just thought I'd get your thoughts on that and whether you think that would be a good strategy or not, or what you could see the downsides of that being.
Oh, Glenn. All right, Glenn. I basically do that now. So, but I think the key is if you're going to do that is to not ride it up. You know what I mean? Try to pay off the loan as quick as possible. Does that make sense? So that
Okay.
way you're not trapped with that 8%.
Okay, yeah, that's fair enough. And
So
then,
like,
but what you were
like,
saying earlier is obviously if you have the card of the card of it. Now the card, is it going to be a debit card or is it going to be a credit card?
it looks like it's going to be a debit card, like a prepaid debit card.
Because if it is a debit card, then I assume that means you can set up almost like a bank, like direct debits and standing
Well,
orders
that's
and
what I'm saying. I think like we were talking about earlier, you could offset the 8% by putting your euro
into
into
it.
it
Yeah,
and just
because then
depositing euros.
you're earning 8% a day. That covers the
Exactly.
8% that you're paying for your Bitcoin. But then where does Nexo make the money? Because obviously if they're earning 8% on people borrowing money against Bitcoin and they're also paying people that put dollars into it or euros, whatever, then you would expect them to only offer like 6% and then they keep the 2% or something.
Well, because they're still going to make money because not everybody's going to be there cross canceling their debt. You know what I mean? There's going to be people who are just taking money out on a loan, and then other people who are not using it to its full advantage. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, because from my understanding, I was reading their white paper the other day, and once say if Bitcoin was to drop, so say you deposited one whole Bitcoin there and it was 10k, and Bitcoin starts to drop to 8k, you've borrowed £5,000 against it because you can only borrow 50% of the value. So once it starts getting close to what you've actually borrowed, they ask you to then top up more Bitcoin or Ethereum or whatever to cover the shortfall. If not, they just sell the Bitcoin for you at that price on that day, and they keep obviously their money back. So they're always secure.
Correct. So
Yeah.
even if it does drop, then they start taking from what you have on there. They take it out of your 50%. So they set a point to where they say like, okay, if your overall value of your account goes to, let's say, let's just say if it goes to an overall value of it starts out at 5,000, but then the overall value goes down to 2,500 because Bitcoin drops 50%, then they start taking from your account, or you got to start making payments to the loan, or you got to top it up. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, I get that. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see if it is a debit card, and say like I just l- live using the card. I can, like you say, if you've got cash in there, you're earning 8% a day cash. Your Bitcoin's 8%, but then obviously it's what do you call it, compounding. So you have
Yeah.
£1 in there one day, but then the next day you have £1 1p. So then you earn interest on £1 1p. So then you're getting £1 3p. You know, it compounds. Um,
Correct.
so yeah, I thought that was really interesting. It's a very cool concept. Um,
I think where they're making their money at is because they know that on I hate to say this, but people who don't have that much money, that's where they're going to make the most money at, because they know that okay, well, if you're putting in $1,000 and you're pulling the $500, well, you're going to have that in there for a longer time because you're not going to be able to pay that loan back as quickly. So they know that you're going to drag the term of that loan out for a long time as compared to somebody who can constantly keep rotating money in. So I think that's why they set their loans. Like if you look at all these other companies, they have higher amount limits. Like I think it's Bitfill or Bitgo or whoever. They offer, or Bitfi. They offer loans, but you got to deposit 2 Bitcoin. You know what I mean?
mm,
In order to even take a loan from them, their minimum loan's like $10,000, but in order to even grab a 50% loan, you got to put 20,000 in. So they know the actual default of the loan is not as likely with somebody who has more cash flow as compared to somebody who doesn't have as much cash flow. So I think that's the way that they look at it, because obviously there's numbers or statistics out there that show that people who take these lower loans, it's like a payday cash is the way to look at it. You guys got those in Europe?
yeah.
You know what I mean? Where, hey, we'll give you $500, but it's going to
But
cost
the
you
APR is
150.
like 1,000%. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So they pull that number, and it's kind of like a payday loan, you know. So that's how they're going to make the money, is by trapping you into it's a low interest, but they're going to trap you into the long term. Uh, they're hoping that you don't pay that loan off immediately, you know. So that's why I say if you're going to take a loan through the Nexo, either cross cancel it by keeping euros or stablecoin or something like that in there, and then paying let the interest be a cross canceling factor. So that way you're eliminating that 8% by using the stablecoin to gather 8%. You know, so I mean, you gotta work the system that's best for you. I mean, what I
Sonic is
recommend
saying,
for
take your money and invest direct into the great country of Panama.
I don't know about
Making
that.
money from the clowns, Glen Mucker.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but
Talk about BitMEX where skills OS actually in play. I made tons of Bitcoin on Mex. Turned my zero point 0.5 into 10 Bitcoin.
Glenn, we've been going for a while. You got to tell me next time that we go live. You didn't even let me sort my kids. The kids are over here hollering in the background.
Um, the the BitMEX, I really looked into that, and I actually spoke to someone from there because you have to fill out well, I can't remember what they call it, a know your customer thing, and I got a phone call from them, and they were like, "Oh, hello, yeah, you've said that you're an investor," because the only options it give you was like if you were up, if you were investing more than $100,000 and stuff like that. And they rang me up and they were like, "Oh, so do you want to deposit $100,000? Are you going to do that anytime soon?" I was like, "Well, I don't know yet. What are your fees and how does it work? What happens if Bitcoin goes up in value very quickly, like websites like Coinbase crash? And I understand that your website can crash quite easily." And they're like, "Oh no, we've increased the infrastructure and we've done this and that." And it was this guy really trying to push me into sending my money to him. And I don't know. I just I can't get my head around. I understand the leveraging, I get it, but I just don't trust it. Especially if someone said to me, "Yeah, this is legit and it's completely safe and secure," but this
I quit.
BitMEX, I just don't. I don't know. There's something about it I'm not sure about.
I quit using the BitMEX now. Now I just use the Bybit. That BitMEX seems to be a little shady operation. I lost a because they do a lot of scammy stuff on there, man.
Yeah.
It's
Have you seen that the guy who runs it? He's now moved to some fucking jungle now.
Oh, I don't blame him. You know, the CFTC and the SEC are probably looking to arrest
I
his
saw
ass.
I saw him post something on Twitter, and it was a picture of him in the jungle, and he was like, "Oh, I've come on holiday to," and it was some island somewhere, and I thought, that's not a good sign.
Oh, hey, look at this. I just got a message from Justin Sane. Now, I haven't seen him in quite a bit or heard from him. I wonder, Justin, if you can hear us in this thing, how's the documentary going with old McAfee? He was doing that documentary. Remember, he was saying about running a special on McAfee and how this guy's been a complete scam artist and all this. So I'm curious how that turned out.
Yeah, I mean, he's only got what have we got now? Is it about a year? He's got a year. Otherwise, he's got to eat his own dick, isn't he, on TV?
Well, now he's running for the United States presidency too. So maybe if he wins the presidency, he can eat his own dick on the national television here.
Oh, mate. I wish we had someone running for like prime minister like that. I'd probably vote for him.
You guys do. It's Boris Johnson.
Yeah, I know. I quite like Boris Johnson.
Yeah, he's a bit of a goof, but he's an interesting character.
He sort of like plays on it. He's actually really clever, but he plays on his like he met up with France, like the French prime minister the other day, and he was really serious, like the way he was talking and presenting himself. And then soon as the French prime minister sort of put him down, saying, "Oh no, we're not going to back down on any of the things that we've already agreed on," he was like, he went into goofball mode, like he sort of went, "Oh, we'll see how we get on. Yeah, look, come on then, let's go in." Like I think he plays on it a little bit. But I don't know. He might be a complete idiot, but I quite like him. Same different, I suppose.
Glenn, have you guys watched John Oliver? You ever see the British guy John Oliver? He's on our HBO out here. He's got a Last Week Tonight is the show it's called.
No. Who?
It's John Oliver. He does a show called Last Week Tonight.
No, I haven't heard of that.
You should look this up. He did a whole special on Boris Johnson. It's really good.
Is he the guy with the glasses, actually?
Yes.
The British guy?
Looks like Mnuchin, or Secretary of Finance or whatever, Steve Mnuchin. Yeah, he's the British guy with glasses.
Yeah. I see his voice gets on my nerves a bit, though. It's a bit annoying. Mimicky says, "Why are you guys posting in Telegram at all? Discord is 100 times better." Don't know about
that. I agree. Glenn just doesn't want to use our Discord ever.
Mate, do you know what it? No, do you know what it is? Obviously, I created.
Discord's junk. That's all.
Mate, it's fucking like I just created a YouTube channel, right? And YouTube's notorious for being difficult to use, and I'm trying to figure it out. And with YouTube, there's actually about 8 different apps for YouTube. You've got YouTube, the main app. You've got YouTube for kids. You've got YouTube for the studio, so you can view your analytics and like how well your videos are doing and stuff like that, and like monetizing them and stuff like that. Then you have, and then obviously the first thing was when I joined cryptocurrencies, everyone was like, "We've got a Telegram group chat," and I'm like, "What the fuck's Telegram?" So I just heard of Telegram when I got involved in crypto, and I just got my head around Telegram, and everyone was saying, "Oh, Glenn, you've created it as a private group. You need to change it to a open group, and so we can all join." So then I figured it all out, and I was like, "Yes, everyone's chatting." And then literally we was doing it for like a month or so, and then you guys are like, "Oh yeah, let's go onto Discord," and I'm like, "What the fuck is Discord?" And I've just never got my head around it. I mean, I did, didn't I? I was fucking set it up, and we can all chat and we all talk, but it's just
Well, we did pretty well for a while there when we had that Sunday night chats or whatever it was, and then everybody just quit doing it, you know.
well, yeah. I mean, that's probably my fault. I might have a small part to play in that, maybe.
Yeah, but nobody else used the Discord. I mean, when I built this thing, it was like, shit, we only got a handful of people using it. Even now, like, you can see we only get 3, 4, 5 people in here. That's it. And,
Yeah.
you don't advertise the Discord whatsoever. It's more than Telegram. So I think that's why most
Mate,
people
I can
use it.
only get my head around one software at a time. Jesus.
Well, I mean, it's not too bad. Now that you see the layout of it, you see how it's like a little bit easier. I just like the fact that we can go in here and voice chat because there's nothing more annoying than trying to type on Telegram when you got everybody typing and doing all this and that. It's hard, and it's easier to express yourself over voice than it is over type or
You
over
you
text.
have no you have no issues with that, PJ.
Oh, what's that?
Hey.
I try.
Yeah, but it's like you said though, innit? Some people do prefer. They don't want to put themselves out there. They don't want to. That like you see it all the time, especially in cryptocurrency. People don't even post their picture as their profile picture. Like you do as well. Like you don't want people to see you. Some people don't want to be heard. Some people like messaging. Some people don't even like messaging. They just want to be there and read. Like everyone has different comfort levels.
Yeah, that's
So
true.
it's not to criticize one over another. Um, but whereas, like, I mean, for me, I'm happy for people to hear me, see me, fucking, see my social medias, see my whatever. I'm quite open. I've got nothing to hide. So I
I never wanted to be seen or be a part of. I think your stuff, and then I got involved with you, but at the same time, though, it was like that because I didn't want to be a focus on your group or your show. You know what I mean? Like I didn't want to be a part of that. I wanted you to be. I was only there to help you. That was it. I didn't want to be any type of
No, we're
focus.
glad you're here, PJ. We're glad you're here.
You know what I mean? Like I always wanted it to be your stuff and nothing to do with me. You know what I mean? Like I don't mind helping you, but at the same time, I didn't want any type of focus to be put onto me. Does
No,
that make
that's right.
sense?
No, mate, I got. I think it's good, and hopefully you spur some other people in to join us. I was hoping Travis would join in and maybe some of
We
the old
had
gang.
Russell here for a minute, and then he took off. I don't know where he.
Centronics is a legend. Pictures of her ego boosting. Wipe your crack. The only and only Centronics. Well, what do you want to talk about now? What we got going on here? Alberto's in the group chat.
Who's Alberto?
Alberto. Alberto. What sort of news have you heard, PJ, about Bitcoin recently that you feel has a special mention? I've noticed that not many people are talking about Lightning Network. I remember there was like this massive debate about Lightning Network and how many people are joining on the nodes and everything like that. And I haven't heard nothing for ages about anything to do with Lightning Network. And apparently it hasn't seemed to taken off as well as I think what they hoped.
I don't know. I just yeah, same here. But I do think that with I think the big one's going to be the Square Cash.
Square
Like I don't
Cash.
know.
I've not heard of that.
The Cash App. Like that thing is so smooth to use, Glenn, to send.
Yeah, we
Well,
don't have it
remember
in the
you tried to
UK.
do it, but you couldn't use it for Bitcoin back there. Because I was going to say, this thing is so smooth to use. Like when I buy Bitcoin off of Square and then transfer it to my Exodus wallet, I'm talking seconds. It's there. It's like a regular transaction within seconds. And then to go from the Cash App to the Cash App, it's seconds, man. I'm talking it's immediate. So I think whatever they're doing there and whatever Twitter's doing, because they're the ones who are creating this Square app is Twitter. So whatever they're doing, whatever they're going to release is going to be huge for Bitcoin, I think. I'm excited to see what happens with that, because if there's going to be mass adaptation, it's going to be that app that brings it to. I don't think anything else competes with it on the speed side. It's crazy. I find it very I don't know what they're doing over there with it. I think they're using the Lightning Network to send the transactions or
Yeah, I was
something.
gonna say, why do you think they are so fast?
Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know if it's because of Lightning or what, or how they're working their transactions. Transactions fees are low and they're super quick. So I was quite impressed with that. And they seem to be. If you go into that Square Crypto, if you go follow Square Crypto on Twitter, they're always coming out with new stuff. They're hiring like the top industry people to come and work for them. So it's whatever they're doing or whatever they're getting are about to release. It's going to be huge, I think, for this space.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting. I think I like the narrative that we played this year. I will say that Bitcoin's become a store of value, and this whole hedge against the global recession. As like last year it was institutions and all that. So I like how every year in Bitcoin, there's always a new narrative. you know?
Yeah, I mean,
That's
Bitcoin,
interesting.
I think, everyone was banging on about backed, weren't they? They were saying, oh, once the back news
Yeah.
comes out, we're going to 50k and all that. It came out the other day. They announced what day they're going to be doing it, and it fucking, I think, if anything, it went down a little bit. What are we at now? We're at 10.5 at the moment.
Yeah, that was crazy. Well, I mean, technically, back hasn't even started yet, but I do think that we'll see it. I think that's interesting too. I think that this back is going to be something neat to see what happens, because there ain't no more paper settled futures, And think about back is going to be physically settled Bitcoin futures contracts. So they got to buy the Bitcoin. You know what I mean? So there's going to be a lot of purchasing of Bitcoin once they come online in September.
Yeah.
And then, the CFTC, if they're
And for
doing
the
as much
people that are shorting
volume,
it and longing it, they have to physically hold it and deposit Bitcoin, don't they? So
exactly.
everyone
So,
that
so
takes part in it.
think about like the volume that's going into the CFTC, and if they have that much volume going into backed, that's going to be crazy. Like it's going to see, and if Ledger X gets approved, to physically settle also, you're going to start seeing a whole different a realm of things being played out in this whole atmosphere. It's funny to watch all the traders. Like, I follow pretty much as many traders as I can on Twitter, and none of them have a fucking clue of what they're doing or what they're trying to do. And I think it's interesting, because everybody seems to just copy and paste everybody else's statement.
Yeah.
Everybody, oh, well, it's going up today, and 900 other people are telling you it's going up. Nobody has a perspective in this space on what the price is doing. If you're
Yeah.
following anybody on Twitter, they all
The
just
only
copy
one
and paste.
I've watched sort of on and off is Tone Vase, but I mean, I don't
He don't know
really.
shit. He doesn't know a damn thing. This guy, he's about as dumb as everybody else, and I think it's funny that dude even has a following. It's crazy to me, because it's just, it's a bunch of, I don't know, man.
He's
It's
been
just
there
all the
from the
same.
beginning. I was watching this Bitcoin documentary the other day, and
Yeah,
it's a few years old, this documentary, and Tone Vase was on it. He was there. He was one of the people like they were interviewing.
yeah.
He's been in the space like really early on, so I have a bit of
I
respect
think
for him in
that's the
that
thing,
regard.
is that this guy really doesn't know shit. He's been in the space for a while, and he bought some Bitcoin, kind of like Richard Hart. Richard Hart don't know shit. You know what I'm saying? They bought Bitcoin when it was cheap, and then they made some fucking money, and now they're looked at like some early adopter who was a fucking genius when They really weren't. You know what I'm saying? All that they did was buy and hold Bitcoin, and now they got a couple $1 million. That was all that they did. Like, you look at Tony Voss and his technical analysis, it's all shit. You know, Richard Hart, his technical analysis is all shit. And it's like, even this dude Da Vinci and Crypto and all them, all their technical analysis are shit. They literally just bought Bitcoin at an early stage, held it, and made some money off of it. But none of them can predict this market for shit. You know?
Yeah.
So I find it funny that they even following. But then you follow guys and you see guys like this Raul Paul out here who's been doing this, the macro investors and things like this, who are like, hey, look, we told you about this in 2011. These guys know what the fuck they're talking about. And it's like, they don't have these followings, which I think is kind of crazy. You know, and it's crazy to me that people are putting their faith into these people on Twitter. It's just insane to me. I think it's funny. I think it's
Yeah.
absolutely funny.
Who would you say is like your? I mean, do you watch certain traders and then like what I
I don't
tend to?
watch anybody. What I've learned, Glenn, is that if you're following a trader, you're going to go wrong. 100%. Like, don't ever trust the trader. Trust your own gut over everything else, man.
Yeah, I mean that's how I feel because you know what I tend to do is I'll read Twitter, and when people say, "Oh, we're hitting this triangle point and there's going to be a massive sell-off tomorrow," I wait until the next day and then I remember and then I look back and I go, "Well, they were wrong about that," you know, or
100%.
yeah,
If you just counter trade everything that's being said on Twitter or these technical analysis, that's why I say technical analysis. I've had this argument with so many people about this. You know what I mean? And it's like, I'm always into it with Travis about the whole technical analysis thing. It's all horseshit. You know, just counter trade the people who are saying it's going to go up. Go put in a short when they're calling up. Put it along when they're calling down, because it never works out like any of them say. Like, you could go on to YouTube today. Here's what I like to do. If you go on to YouTube today and you go look at all these YouTubers, uh, you know, I don't know who you follow on YouTube, but if you go and you look at every single YouTuber, they're all telling you the same thing. Oh, Bitcoin's going 14, Bitcoin's going to 12, Bitcoin's going up, Bitcoin's doing this. It's like none of them have any perspective on it. They all just repeat the same news. Every single Twitter person or every single Twitter and YouTuber, all that they do is just go read the news, pull up Coin Market Cap, and then put some lines on some bullshit and tell you where they think the price is going to go. You know what I'm saying? And that's the rinse and repeat
I
cycle.
think
70 all of them.
technical analysis only works if everyone else follows the technical analysis because
Yeah, but
if you and me can agree that there's you know
here's what I think, Glenn. I don't even think technical analysis, if everybody's following it, because all it takes is one well to go on there and go coins. Done.
yeah
You know?
yeah that's
And they
yeah
just shit all over the technical analysis. So I think it's funny because it's like, well, you look at all these charts and shit people put up, and then next time you know it, it's like, oh, you can just watch well alerts. That's your best bet if you're trying to figure out gauge what's
yeah
going on.
yeah
Is you go
when
watch.
they announce like when Tether's being printed and stuff like that, you do see moves in Bitcoin going up and down and
Just go watch the well alerts like today. Okay, let me look at my phone. I think I just seen, like, on well alerts, it tells you, okay, 500 Bitcoin just got transferred to OpenX. Well, what are you going to do with 500 Bitcoin if you're transferring it over to OpenX? I'm going to dump that shit. You know what I'm saying? So this is why I say look at the flows of the money and where it's going. And if you see like 500 Bitcoin going on, 400 Bitcoin going on, you know somebody's dumping the price.
yeah
You know, there ain't no way
it's
to
such a
technically.
small space that it's easy to manipulate, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you're at such a small market cap right now. It doesn't take much to dump it. I mean, if you had 1,000 coins, you could put it across 3 exchanges and dump the price $500-600. You know, so it doesn't take much at all. So I think that's it. That's interesting.
Oh mate, I tell you what does my head in is I just don't understand. Right, so like just clarify this for me, right?
Yeah.
Say if I was to buy $100 worth of tether, yeah, and I just held on to tether, would that tether be worth more or less in say 6 months' time, or is
No,
it
I don't.
exactly the same
Supposed to stay the same. It's supposed to stay pegged to the dollar. So
to,
it's
to
supposed
to
to.
the US dollar, right? So you don't gain nothing. You
Well,
don't gain any
no,
extra
because
tethers or
now
anything like that.
it's not pegged to the U.S. dollar. It's pegged to a basket of things because they came out and they said, hey, look, so its value is nominal to the dollar, but what's the nominal? So tether's not a dollar, so it's not nominal to the dollar, but it is a dollar. Does that make sense? Because it's not one for one because you're using a currency, but they using multiple currencies now as their backing, so it's not a dollar anymore. Do you see what I'm saying? So it's like,
Yeah.
how can I put that?
So
It's like
they keep
convert.
like when they say like, oh, they're printing 15 billion more tether. Like,
They're just printing monopoly money, man. That's
yeah, they're
it.
just what? Can they just why? Who's come to that figure? Who's how do they get to that amount?
Well, I mean, clearly there's people like how they just said, hey, look, okay, uh, we're going to open up a USDT to yuan. So they're going offshore Chinese yuan. So who's figuring that amount is who's ever investing into it. So let's just say if you're some guy who has $100 million worth of Bitcoin, how are you going to buy $100 million worth of Bitcoin?
Hmm.
And I think one of the easiest routes would be to go into Tether, go to USDT.com, open up an account, and then buy the one for one to start buying Bitcoin. So that's all that I can think of. But I think mostly Tether is used by people who are associated with Tether. They're obviously going out and finding people or whatever. So I
So
guess
what
in
is
another
that?
thing,
Is that another on ramp then? Can anyone buy a tether from any country?
no, I can't buy Tether in the United States. I've tried to. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted Tether like a bank account. I wanted to use it to where as soon as I get my money coming in, I want to convert it into USDT and let it sit in USDT. But it's hard for me to do that because now I have to buy Bitcoin and then go into USDT. I can't buy USDT directly from Tether. So it makes it a real pain in the ass. Now I can buy directly from Coinbase, buy their USDC, but Coinbase is such a piece of shit that I just don't want to do that, because
Yeah,
they
I'm
tie your
losing
money up.
faith in Coinbase.
Yeah,
Um,
because they tie your money up for weeks on end. So it's like,
but then not saying that I don't. I personally don't trust tether. I know you
I
feel
do.
differently, but
Well,
I don't I think that if something was to crash in tether or come out,
well, they have. You know what I'm saying? You have the New York Attorney General running this investigation, and they haven't found shit yet. So that speaks volume, and so does all this other shit that's going against them. You had that New York State judge, and they're going forward with allowing the Attorney General to audit where that $850 million went. My whole question is okay, yeah, they had that problem with the 850 million, but why did that 850 million even get seized from them? And then the government knew that the 850 million was seized. So it's like, what type of horseshit? My whole theory is that they're trying to beat Tether into the ground for Backed because Backed is a U.S. based company, and
yeah.
so they're trying to get inflows into Backed
Why?
because
Where's tether?
no, they're trying to get Tether's customers to come and convert over to Backed because Backed's main play is becoming a custody. They don't give a fuck about the futures contracts part of it. Backed is went and teamed up with Microsoft and what's that other company, Starbucks, and they're trying to become a custody and a solution to store Bitcoin and to do these transactions. So I think their main play Backed isn't really a futures platform. I don't think that they really truly give a shit about the futures part. It's a good way to make income. I think their true uh, outlook is to become a custody over, becoming a actual futures based platform. I don't think they truly give a shit about that. I think that they're more of a custodial, something that wants to own a majority of the Bitcoin. So that way, if this thing does become an actual currency and if Bitcoin starts being used so frequently, they're going to control the inflow outflow volume of Bitcoin. And they'll have such a massive amount of it, they can leverage it. You know what I'm saying? So it's like they'll be a main player in the payments processing system, like a Visa, MasterCard, and all that. They're going to have a clearinghouse, and they'll be the Bitcoin clearinghouse, just like how the ICE and all that shit works. You know how we
Yeah,
use
yeah.
ACH now? Well, they'll be the ACH of Bitcoin. You see what I'm saying? So I think that's their perspective. Is I don't think that they truly give a shit, and I think the only reason why they started a futures contract is because they see how the CFTC is working and how much volume that they're doing. Well, if they can grab that volume from the CFTC, think about how much Bitcoin they're about to have. They're going to control a massive amount of Bitcoin. I think if you look at Grayscale Investments, they're only up to, I think they own like 4% of Bitcoin right now, or at least have 4% in their custody. So if they have CFTC volume, that means that BAC could have something like 10% of Bitcoin custody. And that's massive.
Yeah,
So
huge.
as far as them becoming a clearinghouse or a payment processor, that could be huge money in their part. You know what I mean? So, and then plus they're teamed up with Microsoft and Starbucks. Think about that. What a better way to start all this off if you wanted to become the payment processor of Bitcoin. You could easily put as soon as Starbucks started accepting Bitcoin, you would make billions of dollars off of that. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? And then you're teamed with Microsoft, who could do all the cloud storage, the actual processing of the transactions, and all this. It's like, boy, that's $1 billion industry right there.
Yeah.
And it can be created overnight just by getting
When
these
did back
different.
say they're going to start doing their futures contracts?
September 23rd is when they're supposed to come online.
So it's
So
only in
I'm interested
three
to
or four
see.
weeks, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm interested to. I don't think that the price will skyrocket because of them, no. But do I think that over the next year's period, I think Bitcoin is going to be interesting to watch for the next few years because it's going to become such a commodity and such a desired asset. If all of our currencies start falling and people start using it like a hedge, it's going to be real interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, I
You
think.
know,
I mean, again, obviously, I don't do technical analysis. This is just my gut, and I think I've called it pretty well so far. I even said at the start of this year, I think Bitcoin's going to keep going down, so I'm not looking to invest until I think I said May at first. Um, and it did. It stayed 4K for ages, and then something happened, and I didn't have the funds, and I said, well, actually, I'm probably looking to invest the end of August towards September time. So then, obviously, I actually thought, I bet it's going to rise, but do you know what? That's the position I'm in. There's nothing I could do about it. And when it went up to 14,000, I thought, oh no, it's happening. It's starting to happen. But I honestly believe that between now and this time next year, especially after the halvening, um, I think Bitcoin's going to really skyrocket. Like I would
I do too
expect
because
it's going to
I feel
test
like
like 20, 25,000 level, then it'll dip back down, then it'll go back up, and I think it'll probably hit 30K. And once we're in that sort of region, I think the sky's the limit because people will always be trying to test new highs as we go forward.
I
Um,
see another interesting thing going on too. I see a lot of rappers, like real famous rappers like Snoop Dogg are starting to talk about cryptocurrency. You got a ton of rappers who are putting this into their music videos. So I thought that was interesting because, uh, if you start focusing on uh, an urban community, and if you go into where people are unbanked and people who have money are looking for it and things like this, like um, it's going to be interesting to see how the because that's a whole nother element of Bitcoin. Because right now, Bitcoin is more like a white, a nerdy white boy type of thing. You know what I mean? Like you look at Bitcoin and it's tech savvy people who are using it, and it's not everyday people who are using it. So I think for adoption, to see like rappers and celebrities and all this start talking about it, more people are going to adapt it. So I
Yeah, I
think
mean
that's
that's
interesting.
a very quick way for adoption, isn't it? Because
Yeah, so I
you
thought
know,
that
you
was
look
interesting.
at most rappers, they get paid to or endorse products in their songs, because then it
Shit, every
becomes a
product.
cool thing like Beats earphones and stuff like that. That just sort of came out of
Exactly.
nowhere. So yeah, if a lot,
Patron liquor, Beats earphones,
yeah,
any type of clothing, anything that that rap industry is hitting on and
yeah,
talking about, people are inclined to buy it.
yeah, and
So
if
I
they
think that's
start
interesting.
talking about Bitcoin and stuff like that, then there'll be a lot of younger generation like, oh yeah, I need some of that because he's got it, you know. Um,
Exactly. So I thought that was really interesting, and you're starting to hear it more and more in rap music. So I thought that was kind of cool, kind of neat to see. So
I
that's
mean,
it.
the thing is, Bitcoin has obviously one potential, but it has a good story. And I was watching this thing the other day about how people only really invest in stories. They don't actually invest in things that are just if, like, say you put money into your pension, that's quite a boring thing, and people do it. But um, whereas if you say, well, you invest in your pension, but it's tied to stocks and shares always go up in value over a long period of time. Um, then that becomes a story, and Bitcoin's story of you could not be that into like why would I want to change the fiat system? I'm quite happy with how that's panned out. But then when you actually look into the story of Bitcoin and what it can do and where it's come from, you start like it's like a bug, isn't it? You start to like, yeah, why should we trust these banks? And then all of a sudden now you're invested emotionally, and
That's
then
why I said Bitcoin has an interesting story, man. It's like
yeah,
I
it
was
is,
saying
yeah.
earlier, how like I was talking about with the internet almost being built for Bitcoin. It's got a story and it can be played on so many ways. I think it's neat.
Yeah.
It is a neat story. Rags to riches overnight. Shit, buying $1 Bitcoin. Now you're worth millions. Think about all the kids who have that story to tell, who were using Bitcoin in 2011, sitting in their mom's basement buying Bitcoin, and now they're worth millions of dollars.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean
Like
that's the thing. I mean,
kids in
I've,
2014 buying Ethereum, or 15 buying Ethereum, and now worth millions of dollars. Like
yeah, I mean,
that's nuts.
I think that's what a lot of people are in the space for, aren't they? They're in the space for
Let's just
they
keep it real.
that
That's what everybody's in this space for, is to make millions of dollars. Nobody gives a shit about a sound financial system. 95% of people only give a shit about getting rich. That's it. I mean,
yeah.
honestly. You know?
When River J came up to me the other day and said, "Oh, you're Bitglen," and that, and we had the chat, and that's the first time it's ever happened to me in doing YouTube or anything like that. Someone actually came up and said, "Oh, I recognise you," and he said like, "Oh, do you actually own any Bitcoin?" I said, "No, I don't own any at the minute." He said, "Oh, so what? Have you given up on it?" I said, "No." I said, "I check it every hour," and he's like, "Oh," and he was like, "Oh, why have you not bought any then?" I'm like, because I'm interested in it. Like I read about it, I watch YouTube videos about it, but I hold none of it at the moment, because it's not the right time for me to do so. I said, but soon I'm looking to purchase in, and I just hope, fingers crossed, when I buy it's at a time where it dips, sort of thing. But it may not happen. But I whether I'm in it or not, whether I'm making money from it or not, I just typically am very interested in it, and I do want to see where it goes. I want to see the story. It's like watching a film. You want to see the end.
Yeah.
You're most excited to see where it's gonna end. And obviously you have to go through that hour and a half of suspense of like, oh, how's this going to end? How's it going to end? And for me, it's like Bitcoin. Like I'm watching the story unfold every day. Um, like I remember when I first started doing these YouTube videos, we were talking about fucking like BitConnect, ICOs, uh, you know, Ethereum, uh, Tether, like all these things, and like Coinbase only did, I think Bitcoin and Ethereum and Litecoin at the time, or something like that, and now they're doing like 10 or 15 different coins, and there's loads of other exchanges and websites that have come and gone since that time. Lightning Network. What's happened to what's his name? Roger? Is it Roger Ver? Was it? What's happened
Yeah,
to him? He was
I
he
don't.
was he was all over everything. He was on YouTube videos. He was on Twitter. I haven't seen nothing posted from that guy. It seems like he's just fell off a cliff. I don't see
I
anyone talking about Bitcoin Cash or. Uh,
nothing. Yeah, everything's dead. Like this is what everybody. They got the death of all these altcoins. You remember last year when everybody's like, "Oh, these prices have to drop and they got to go to zero and all this shit needs to be washed out." Now all the shit's been washed out. Now everybody's begging for an alt season again. Like, oh,
yeah,
please go to $1 million. Everybody got what they wanted, but now they're begging for it back, right?
yeah. I mean these altcoins. It's. I mean, I'm looking at it now. When you look at it, obviously, again on the US dollar terms, everything's up. Everything is in the
Yeah.
green. As soon as you change it versus Bitcoin, everything's down like 2%. Um, it's You can see why the dominance of Bitcoin's going up, because obviously for some people it takes longer to click than others, but it, they are dying very slowly. Um, they are that like all these shit coins. They're all. I mean, you actually go to them, and if you actually click on the US dollar, I was looking at ones the other day, and I went right to the bottom of that, and some of them say that they're worth, like 1 cent. But when you actually change it to Bitcoin, they're worth like 0.000000000 Bitcoin. Like
But
they're
then,
not even worth a Satoshi.
but then you go on Twitter and everybody's like, "Oh, we need alt season." I don't get it. I don't
Yeah.
get it. Like there's such an infraction there of people who are like so. Just last year, everybody was like, "Oh hell with." Well, now they're and everybody's begging for an alt season. Like, come on, man, what do you want?
I'm actually
They're
looking at Nexo, the
so
coin.
indecisive.
I noticed the other day, because obviously I was looking into it when we were talking about it. Nexo, their coin,
Yeah,
was it weren't even in the
that
top
seems
100. Then it went into the top 100. Then it was 98 the other day, and now it's 93. So it seems to be
it's
working its way
doing
up the
well.
list.
It's going. It's ranging from 7 cents to because as soon as you brought that up, I was thinking about buying into it when you started talking about it. Uh, I started using another one that's doing well. These lending platforms are doing really well. Got crypto.com, Celsius, and Nexo. They're all ranging from one of them's ranging from, Nexo's going from 7 to 9 cents.
Yeah,
And then the other one, this Celsius, is going to about 10 cents and ranging from there.
I've
And
not
then
heard
this,
Celsius.
huh?
I've not heard of Celsius.
Yeah, they're another little lending platform like the Nexo.
How'd you
And
spell
they're
it?
good. What's that? CELSIUS.
Yeah,
It's Celsius Network.
yeah. So
And
it's
they're,
worth eight
they're
cent at the moment.
I'm using them also. And they're another good platform too. And these lending platforms are really taking off. And I think that they're a huge wave of the future because it makes liquidity for Bitcoin and getting money out of your asset a great leveraging tool. You know what I mean? It's like how you were talking about. Yeah, well, I can get this $5,000. So if you need a loan, because me, I'm like, hey, look, I don't like using credit for anything. My personal credit, I hate it. You know what I mean? Because it's such a tricky system to mitigate.
Yeah.
As soon as you pull a loan, your credit score goes down. As soon as you do something to it, you pull a credit card, you're screwed, you know? So it's like to be able to have this asset here, this hard physical asset like Bitcoin, and then to be able to pull against it, I find that very interesting. You
Yeah, I
know,
mean,
I
I
think
think
it's
that's what we
great.
need to have in this space, because
Oh yeah,
if we're talking about Bitcoin being a replacement for the current fiat system, obviously
that's what I'm saying.
the one good thing about the fiat system is, if it's almost like a now society, isn't it? If I want to go and buy
Exactly.
a kettle and toaster and I haven't got the money to go and do it, I just ring up the bank or credit card and say, I wanna go and buy this toaster, and they go, yeah, here you go,
Yes.
pay us back in 3 years. So whereas obviously Bitcoin hasn't got that at the moment, and once they have, and it's a very easy way to do it, you know.
Here's what I'll tell you, Glenn, is like this. The reason why I like these lending programs is because it forces you to save and not depend on borrowing money that just isn't there. You know what I mean? You have to have that money. You're borrowing against your own money, so it's forcing you to save and repay back your debt because you don't. So you're not getting trapped into a system to where it's like, oh, well, I just get another credit. Well, you just can't get more Bitcoin unless if you buy it. So it's teaching people a very valuable lesson,
Yeah.
as compared to credit cards, which don't teach you a lesson. You can't default on these loans. And that's the beautiful thing about them that I find so interesting as compared to credit, which you can default on and not be responsible for. So it doesn't even teach you responsibility, to use your personal credit. But with this, is teaching people how to be responsible for their own assets, which is very interesting because we've never had anything like this before in this world. So I think that these lending platforms are going to be highly successful because of that, because it's a system that's basing your integrity off of what you own and what you're saving. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but obviously the people that can't afford to pay for something and then borrow 50% of it, obviously they're the ones who are going to miss out. And
Well, but at the same time, you're not ruining them, So that's why I like that concept because you're still going to have some value there, even default on your loan. You're still going to get money back. You know what I'm saying? You're not being completely wiped out. Like in today's system, let's just say if Glenn goes and gets a loan for $5,000 and he doesn't pay that loan back to the bank, oh, they're going to destroy your life. You know what I mean? That Equifax credit score is going to take a huge hit, and then you're going to be ruined for 7 years. You're not going to be able to get another credit card. You're not going to be able to get any funding. And then
Equifax are coming.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. And they literally destroy you that way. And it discourages the banks from lending to you and all this and getting these financial hardships to where you're taking high interest loans and all this other shit. And it literally puts you into a bind. And there's no forgiveness with that system. If you fault on making a payment late or something like that, it's a horrible system. But with this system, if you fault on the loan and you don't pay them back in the year, you still have half of your value of whatever you used of that asset. You're still going to get half of your money back. You know what I mean? Or you could pay the loan out with your asset and still have a little bit of the asset left. So you're not left with your, sitting there empty-handed. So it's kind of an interesting concept that I think it'll help a lot of people and teach a lot of people to be a little bit more responsible with money as compared to what we have going on now with this revolving door of, oh, here's some credit, take a bunch of credit cards, and a lot of people know they don't have to pay that stuff back. If you don't care about your credit, then go max out all your credit cards, bankrupt, and wait another 7 years and do it again. So I think this is an interesting concept. I think these lending platforms are crazy. I think that they're a major disruptor. The disruption is going to come in lending because not only are they doing this, it's like, where else can you stick your money and get 8%? You cannot put your money anywhere and
And
get
also
8%.
they're doing if you use the card to buy stuff, they're doing five. You get 5% cash back.
Yeah. Like if I can get this Nexo card, I'm going to use it like a bank account. You know what I'm saying? Everything I have is going in there. I mean, it's just stupid not to use
What
it.
number are you on the waiting list? They emailed me saying, "Oh, well, your number." I think I was 700, and it went. It said if you share your referral code, you
I
get
was at
bumped up.
800. I think I was at 800, and then if I start getting referrals, they say I'll bump up to like 400 or something like that.
Yeah.
It was stupid, but yeah, there's another one we have in the US, but I can't use it because it's not available to my state. It's called crypto.com.
Yeah, the
Now, that one,
MCO one.
they already have a functionable card, and
Yeah.
then they're paying you the interest to hold your money inside of the.
Yeah.
I was like, man, You know, that's I've just been using Nexo since 2018.
There was a guy on YouTube I was watching, and he's actually done a review of the card in his state, and he uses it. Who's that guy? Vincent Brad Torvey or I'll I'll copy and paste his YouTube channel. But yeah, he talks about a lot of these lending platforms and that, and he actually like puts his money where his mouth is and says to people, you know, I think one of them you have to put in a minimum amount of like £30,000 or dollars or whatever before they'll even consider you. I think one of them you had to pay £3,000 just to be a member, so you could then look into how much the loans were and stuff like that. And he was talking about the MCO card being really good, and but I don't think it's as flexible as Nexo.
Well, the Nexo is good, I think, just because it does the you know, like you can get a loan for $500 and then be right onto it, you know, and that's not offered by a lot of these companies. So I thought that was interesting that they're even doing that.
Yeah.
You know, and if they do release that card, boy, I've actually been in talks with Nexo for a while, but because I email them about all sorts of shit. It's like they're good. I'm impressed with them a lot because they do respond, and you know, they get back to you. You can go to live chat. I've been really impressed with them. I have no complaints with Nexo. I mean, I can't wait till they release the card. I feel perfectly comfortable using them like a bank, you know, and I wouldn't mind keeping $20,000 on their platform. I mean, I'm not going to put $1 million or anything like that, you know, nothing stupid. But to put 20 grand into it, I feel comfortable with putting upwards of $100,000 into their platform. I wouldn't do anything more. I wouldn't do anything crazy to put a couple $1 million into it. But I would put a significant amount onto the platform and feel comfortable with it. You know?
I mean, in a bull market, obviously it's going to be a no-brainer because you can, you know, say if Bitcoin was going up loads in value, you can always borrow 50% of whatever that Bitcoin's worth. So say you buy one whole Bitcoin for $10,000, you borrow $5,000 against it. If all of a sudden Bitcoin goes to 20,000, all of a sudden your available limit to withdraw is £10,000. And then if that goes up to 25k, you can now borrow like, you know, you can borrow 12,000.
Well, another good thing, Glenn, is a lot of people aren't looking at this, but like for the tax write-off purposes too, because when you sell
Yeah,
Bitcoin,
because you're borrowing money against it, it's not a taxable event.
exactly. So you're not making a taxable transaction by actually using the platform. So I thought that was interesting. Now they do tie up your money. They do tie up a Bitcoin. Like if you wanted to cash out on the Bitcoin, you're going to have to cash out and then send it over to Gemini or Coinbase or whoever you use to cash out. You know, I mean, that part sucks. But at the same time, like you said, you could either borrow against it and eventually cash out altogether if you wanted. You know, so I just think the whole system, the whole ecosystem, very interesting. You know, the whole lending platform.
Can you not convert the Bitcoin through their website? Can you convert the Bitcoin into a stable coin?
No.
Oh.
No. And that turns them into an exchange, and they're a financial institution. They're not an actual exchange.
Right. Okay.
So that's why they can't do that. But you can buy their coin off of it, but they use a third party, which is Changeling or whoever to convert. You can convert Bitcoin into their Nexo token, you know, or euro or whatever you
What's
want.
the benefits of holding the Nexo token? I can't remember what it was that they were
They
offering.
give you 50% off on the. I think it's like 50% off on the loan. So if you take a loan, you're only paying 4% interest or something like that, and then if you pay off in their token, then you get a 50% reduced fee also.
So there must be a way that we can wangle this so that you can borrow money against Bitcoin and then buy something that's gonna earn you more interest than you're paying out in, so that you're actually in a plus all the time.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Just keep USDT on the platform so you cross cancel because you don't need to keep $5,000. You only own value. Let's just say if you put $1,000 on there and you borrow $1,000, you cross canceling what it's owed. Well, then stick $2,000 on the platform and you'll be making more in interest than what you're paying in interest. You see what I'm saying? So I use that Celsius and I keep a couple $1,000 on there. And the good thing about Celsius is they're compounding the interest daily if you hold Bitcoin, but if you keep USDT on there, then you get compounded interest at 8%, and plus it's paid out in Bitcoin.
Right.
So every day you get the Bitcoin instead of getting USDT, or they pay you out which is ever higher. And then they use it as a tiered platform. So on Celsius, if you hold the Celsius token, you get paid more in interest for as much of their token as you have. So there's an incentive to hold their token to get interest. That's how that works out. Like they have different tiers from platinum to gold or whatever. So but these lending platforms are interesting.
Right, let me just end this YouTube video now. Do you want to say goodbye to anyone who's watching, PJ?
We're still on YouTube.
We're still there. Thanks for joining us in this chat. It was me and PJ. Hopefully next time more people will join in. Don't forget to give this video a like, and also don't forget click to subscribe. And I'll see you guys on the next live chat with Team Bitglen. Bye. So let me go over to. I need to figure out now how to end this.